The first and best place to start when it comes to COVID pandemic, regardless of being vaccinated or not, masks.
Ooh!
Masks! So many masks. I don't know about y'all, but I have so many different masks for all sorts of different occasions. And I accentuate and accessorize with all of them. Look at the puppy mask.
Does this make us mask for mask? Ah!
Look, I'm into cigars.
Hey, that's mine.
Would you say nay?
Nay!
That's on upside down. It's also important to make sure that you're just being conscious of your mask and wearing it properly. Cute hat, but not a mask.
Hello!
Welcome back to
What's Safeword?
I'm Amp.
I'm Mr. Christopher.
And today,
we are fully vaccinated.
but still just a little cautious. I mean, there's people.
No, that means I can kiss you all over. I can breathe on you.
Okay, well, we are slowly but surely opening back up.
We're getting signs that things are opening back up.
And we have started to actually roll out vaccines in the US, with 44% of people saying they've gotten one dose and 31% saying they've been fully vaccinated in the US alone.
And everyone's been living like a hermit and scared to touch each other.
I'm not scared, just
Well,
you know,
cautious, you know?
I'm not touching you.
They
I'm not
have...
touching you. And so now that everyone's getting vaccinated, we don't have any questions whatsoever in our inboxes about sex or dating.
No. Our boxes are so full that I said we have to do this video so we don't have to answer them
How
all.
full is yours?
So full.
How full? Over a year later, I think that it is still very important that we sit down and we have real conversations about testing, vaccinations, what it means when you can interact with people.
And now we have been so cautious and careful about who we play with and who we even breathe on. What are our rules of engagement now? How do we learn to rewrite that bike?
And while we are not professional licensed doctors in any way, shape, or form, we are professional perverts.
And we're surrounded by lots of sexual people who are all acting very differently right now as things open.
With different questions, perspectives, and so on Twitter, I posted this. How are people feeling about sex and intimacy as we start getting vaccinated and opening up? What questions do you have about sex post-pandemic? So today we are answering your questions, having down-to-earth conversations about sex in our own personal lives, and just talking about what we know to date about COVID. And I think that kind of starts by just talking about what is safe sex even in this COVID age. The first question from Fraser, who asks, where do we start from again? Is there a new baseline? To answer that question, I think we have to look at the facts and follow the science. In fact, as of March 25th of this year, the San Francisco Health Department has put out some facts around COVID and sex, which is going to be up to date and linked down below. So let's just hit you with the facts, plain and simple, before we even get into this video and save you some time.
No, just the facts, ma'am.
Excuse you?
First of all, COVID vaccines are safe for most people above 18.
And should absolutely be taken for those that have pre-existing conditions or are immunocompromised and or have problems with asthma or breathing, regardless of COVID.
According to who?
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 Doctor Who?
Woo-hoo. And for vaccines, people are fully vaccinated 2 weeks after their final dose.
Regardless, Pfizer, J&J, Moderna.
I got the Madonna.
Strike a pose.
Not a thing. Fake news. And some scientists even think that we might need boosters down the line, kind of similar to the flu, but we're not sure on that yet.
So just remember, moaning, panting, grunting, groaning, all spread COVID.
Also, COVID is still found in semen, saliva, the throat, the rectum, some of your inner tracts, but it has not been found in vaginal fluids.
Deciding to go virtual is a great way to have sex.
But be conscious of who you're sending that stuff to and make sure that you can trust them with all of your data.
You can embrace dirty thoughts and clean surfaces.
It's important to clean all your toys and surfaces with a good alcoholic sort of base. And don't forget to wear a mask. But if all else fails, we do have this handy little sheet right here that shows your safety, what's the best, what's the most risk. Risk-aware consensual kink has always been one of our mottos.
So we're good at this.
We're okay.
We've got this.
And the next question comes from James, who asks, is using hand sanitizer as lube considered safe sex? No! Don't do that! Why, bad! Where's my spray bottle? Don't do that! The next question comes from Cheddars, who asks, is it rude to ask about someone's vaccination record on a dating app?
I don't think so. I put it out there up front, I'm vaccinated, and I want to make sure that whoever I'm playing with now is also vaccinated. I don't want to spread this thing around.
Absolutely. The fact of the matter is, people are not positive or negative the tests are. We don't talk about people as being clean or dirty, very much like how we talk about STIs and STDs and HIV. We should be talking about that the same way. Are you vaccinated? Are you not vaccinated? And have a conversation from there.
Yeah, my dating apps are through the roof right now, and lots of people aren't even asking each other. So I think it's important that we do ask each other and that it become a norm that we are vaccinated and going to be safe going forward.
And just talking about STIs and STDs in general, we don't talk about it in such a way that like, I'm dirty. We talk about, I was tested on this date, I am negative for this thing, and we go from there. We also have to embrace the fact that dating apps are now one of the largest ways for people to communicate, whether it's sexually or not. A lot of dating apps, Match Group being one of them that owns 45 different dating apps, including OkCupid, Tinder, and Hinge, saw upwards of 700% more activity over the last year alone.
And it's important to note that not all countries are getting vaccinated as fast. So people you may be approaching, your vax, you feel safe, they may not be. Be mindful of that and don't be a jerk about it.
And that's where we can learn from BDSM and Kinksters again by negotiating more, better, and properly. Negotiation doesn't mean you have to fully commit to something. It just means you have to talk about and kind of find out what you're comfortable with, which is also where the rack comes into place, and I don't mean like your nice chest.
Risk-aware consensual kink. Knowing someone's vaccination status helps you assess the risk levels you're involved in.
And helps you to consent or not. You might be okay with certain things that you've discussed via a dating app before you meet the person, and you might consent to it, but the second you meet them, maybe you're just getting weird vibes or it's not working, you can take that consent back. While not a question, a point from Maddie says, well, there's the internal screaming, the screaming in terror, the screaming in excitement, the screaming in the what the fuck, and the screaming in the rage and confusion.
So a lot of screaming, which spreads COVID.
Oh, that's true. Don't scream.
Don't spread COVID, use a hand.
Our next question from Kat asks, how do you think sex drives will be affected?
So I think it's going to be different for everyone. People my generation and other people who are a little trepidatious about whether this science is actually working or if we're in real time here, we're figuring out these facts as we go. Whereas I think I've seen the younger generation running up and down the streets going, fuck me, and having tons of
Regardless of how you dip your toes in the sex water, band name called it, we should still be conscious of the fact that being indoors and isolated and confined has affected us in a bunch of different ways. Whether it's one-on-one relationships with your partner, whether it's just being a little bit more kept to yourself, depression has even been affected. In fact, research done by the Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences found that within men, we have an increased rate of erectile dysfunction due to the mental state of people after the pandemic, not because of actual vaccines. But we do also see lowered testosterone in people who have had COVID or have gotten the vaccine themselves.
Sure, and that makes sense because I think a lot of people are scared and that's going to affect erections.
But I think that as we move forward and we get a bit more comfortable with, touching people and actually being intimate.
Ow. Ow! Stop poking me.
So I think that we're all gonna bounce back eventually, but it's gonna take time, it's gonna take healing, it's gonna take being able to communicate with each other.
And it's gonna take us understanding that everyone's gonna be different. There are gonna be some people that are gonna be, yay, let's do this, and group orgies. And a lot of other people going, no, that's not the way to do
I'm
it.
just gonna stay home and read my books and, jerk off. Spaceman Joe says, where do we start? And then he says, let's go back to the beginning. Do you remember Hilary Duff? No?
She was a singer, right?
Lizzie McGuire?
She was, weren't they both B actresses?
And the next question says, is this episode sponsored? I mean, do you want to put that topic to bed?
If it's a dungeon bed, I do.
Ooh. When it comes to COVID, everybody's been switching around their sleeping schedules, how they're sleeping, where they're sleeping, if they're sleeping on a new bed or not. And I know that I personally spend a lot more time indoors and
in bed.
I don't mind sleeping in a little bit. So today's episode is actually sponsored by Dungeon Beds. So if you're looking to get kinky, hot, and heavy in the bedroom,
they have the best beds to do that. What I love about these beds is you don't mind if your parents see them because they look so classy. But when your parents leave, it's playtime.
Founded in 2002, Dungeon Beds was born from the basic principle of dungeon furniture should offer distinct design, high quality, lifetime durability, and fun. And my bed is fun. I went with a standard dungeon black in my bedroom, but they have all sorts of different colors from purple, pink, blue, red, yellow, green, and even orange for your dungeon bed, and a bunch of different styles as well.
And we got the puppy a loading dock bed.
And it brings a whole new meaning to the term load.
Ding.
But it also is able to hold a bunch of different weight, and they are actually safe for suspension, whether it's a sling, rope, or you're just tying someone down.
Actually, it holds a lot of weight.
But wait!
But wait, there's more!
Dungeon Bed also has all your needs for when it comes to messy play, from pillow sheets to covers that are nice and safe for all sorts of liquids. We love Dungeon Beds, and we are proud for them to be one of our sponsors.
So use offer code WATTS down below at dungeonbeds.com for 10% off all of your purchases, whether it be a bed, accessories, or shirts. By supporting Dungeon Beds, you also support the show, and we appreciate ya.
Our next question from Addicted to Ropes. Well, I mean, same. Who asks, reading what other people are saying in the thread, it seems that we're back to the 80s when the world discovered AIDS. People are concerned about asking about COVID and vax statuses, and also how to ask how many other people that you've seen lately. I'm not condemning anyone, but perhaps normal just won't exist ever again?
No, and that actually is valid because I've lived through the AIDS epidemic myself, and when PrEP came along, it took my generation a long time to trust that the science worked and we had learned condoms protect you. So learning that PrEP would prevent this STI was a hard thing for my generation. I think a lot of people have been in pods and having very limited sexual partners in the last year, so they're not thinking to ask people who they're having sex with because they just assume everyone's in a small pod now. They're not. They've opened up and they're having sex with lots of people, so ask them.
Stigma is this insidious thing that we always project on other people, whether we mean to or not. And I think it's important that we talk about it in such a way that marginalized communities are the ones that are hit the hardest by things like the AIDS epidemic or HIV. And in this case, it's also true for COVID. We see that the rates for people of color, trans people, and the gay community is more impacted by things like the pandemic because there's just so much stigma around things like COVID.
And it's important we get it right now because this probably won't be the last pandemic.
Oh, absolutely not. Especially with sex being so integral to who a lot of people are in our societies. With things like HIV and AIDS, it was always this death sentence that we didn't talk about because it was so scary. We need to talk about these risks so that younger people take it more seriously and we all take the necessary precautions and steps to protect ourselves and others.
So a 2018 study showed that 45% of people living with HIV did experience stigma around it.
And 85% of those same people experienced discrimination based on their race, their culture, or just who they were in general because of it.
So then what can we take away from the HIV epidemic and stigma and apply to COVID prevention?
Well, actually, the National Library of Medicine did a huge study where they actually came away with 5 main takeaways from what we can learn. The first of which being scientific evidence and correct information on the pandemic should always be trusted.
But there's so much misinformation out there and people are getting it from so many different sources. It's hard to trust what are even facts.
So we'll leave some links down below that you can use and are especially helpful and accurate, but it's also just important to listen to actual professionals on professional matters.
Who?
Professionals.
Who?
The Who, yes. Doctor Who.
And the second point is community involvement is important.
Which means that we should be combating stigma with education within our communities, especially in marginalized communities who are at higher risk because of poor policy management and change within our government.
Which is exactly why we're starting this conversation right now.
Third on their list was challenging stigma and protecting human rights. And that's not just my rights, that's not just that's everybody's rights.
It's human rights.
Human rights. In the case of COVID, that includes the elderly, that includes people with pre-existing conditions, those with disabilities, refugees, those that are displaced. All humans deserve human rights.
Why do you always look at me when you say elderly?
I was looking at the camera.
The fourth point being global and national leadership at the highest levels. But that doesn't look like it's gonna happen.
The point being, we need to make sure that we're putting the right people in the right places of power that are going to make sure all rights are included within this conversation.
And making the right decisions for our health. If you think about it, it is amazing that we are exactly 1 year and we already have a vaccination. Never in the history of the world have we had a vaccine that fast for a pandemic this big.
And I think that we can also look at, again, HIV and learn from those experiences of how we actually talk about something that's so life-threatening, but we do it in such a way that is risk prevention, making sure people are being safer. Because safe sex doesn't exist, only safer forms of sex.
RAC, risk-aware sexual kink. No, wait.
We're professional perverts.
RAP, risk-aware consensual kink.
There you go.
Wait, risk-aware COVID kink.
No, well,
Risk-aware...
sound it out. And the fifth point that they brought up here was partnership and global solidarity, which sounds like, it's the biggest point.
It seems great, right?
But we need to be helping all other countries that are not getting the proper support and not getting the proper vaccinations. It's the human experience here, y'all, not the American experience, not the Canadian experience. And I wish that just everybody in general was able to understand that we're all going through it and that we all need some help.
Putting our resources together and acting in solidarity.
Do your part, educate other people. Ultimately though, going through the thread of perspectives, perceptions, and questions that we got on this topic, I think everyone's kind of at that same place of, I don't exactly know how to feel just yet. I don't know how to be around everybody just yet. And I'm kind of there with you, honestly. If I'm being honest, while there's a lot of stats in place, we're still so unsure with how to handle everything and how to get everybody on the same page and how to fix people that are feeling like they don't have a sexual desire anymore.
But a lot of people are pent up and ready for action and want to hook up, and they are being safe about it. They did get vaccinated. They did go get tested. They are only hooking up with people or also did the same. So let's not shame them.
Just be open to having conversations. If you're vaccinated, make it clear. Let's normalize getting vaccinated, being safe, and having risk-aware conversations that make us all feel empowered and feel sexy with someone. Again, from somebody who's a little bit more on the demisexual side, I like having conversations with someone that lets me know that they're taking their safety into account, but also making sure that I'm safe. Am I safe? Are you safe? Are we safe?
I don't feel safe right now. So just remember, we have been here before facing a viral enemy we didn't understand that really curtailed our sex lives.
But we worked past that. We found ways around that to get to a place where we could talk about something like HIV, for example, as a non-life-threatening disease that we can combat and hopefully find a cure for one day. The same thing's true about COVID. We've worked through it and we found a vaccine, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to face more pandemics in the future that we have to work through. We have to be kind to each other. We have to be able to communicate, to grow, and to heal from our experiences together.
Because we don't want this to happen again, and we don't want other people to die like they have through both of these pandemics.
If we'd listened to all the signs of the past and we'd actually listened to our medical professionals, we would have been ready for this.
If we had had leadership that was prepared to take us down those roads and we didn't have to come up with these on our own, we would have been much better off as well.
And hey, if we had social platforms that actually took the topic seriously, did not demonetize, restrict, or block videos like this, we might actually have better conversations about our sexual health and our lives.
And save people.
Ah!
Don't get the puppy started.
Ah!
So also, we aren't experts. We are only presenting the facts as we know them and our opinions on them. But we want to hear about how you're going to open up, how you're going to engage.
What questions do you have? Leave those in the comments down below. Let's have some discussions.
And if you like ringing bells, ring the bell.
But most importantly, whether you're vaccinated or not, please get vaccinated. Always have a safe word. Today's safe word is
Whoopee!
Because
we're going to be making lots of whoopee.
You're pushing for a cushion. You're whoopee pushing for a whoopee cushion. Whoopee.
You in danger, girl.
If you're not getting vaccinated. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Seriously though, I hope you all are doing okay. Like, this is a serious topic, which will absolutely get age restricted by YouTube, probably because we talked about our sexual experiences, which isn't okay. But in context, this is just, if you have questions, please leave them down below. If you want more resources, again, they're down below. Let us know how you're doing. Sometimes talking helps the most. How are you? How are you doing? Just go to your friends and yell at them. Hello.
Remember your pandemic inside voices, though.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I shouldn't.
Put a muzzle on it. If you like it, put a muzzle on it.
How are you doing? How has your sex been? Is your sexual desire for me still strong? I love you.